Esparza, and today I'm going to be talking about women in astronomy and really focusing in on why this is important to address in astronomy and what this means for women. So, throughout history, women have been heavily involved in astronomy and what goes into it. They've made amazing discoveries and contributions to what we now call astronomy and what we know today. However, it has been no easy feat, and women have had to overcome obstacles thrown at them in order to succeed. I'm going to be talking about four particular astronomers, including Annie Cannon, Caroline Herschel, Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin, Williamina Fleming, and the importance of these women and what they have offered to astronomy. Starting with Annie Cannon, she attended Wesley College in 1880. After that, she took 10 years to actually work in astronomy, 10 years of working with her parents to have her actually work in astronomy and realize that that is what she wanted to do. She had actually come up with the concept of the Harvard computers, or in other words, she realized that women could be hired, educated women could be hired at 1/4 or 1/3 of the cost of the salary of men to do things that men found repetitive or mundane or intolerable. Now, this might seem like it is taking advantage of women, and in some sense, yes, it is. Women were being taken advantage of in that they could be hired with a much less salary of men, although at this point in time, it was kind of more acceptable to do that, although now looking back, it is very much so an obstacle that they had to overcome. She was actually hired by Edward C. Pickering to be one of these Harvard computers, and you might be asking yourself, who is Edward C. Pickering and why is it important that he specifically hired her? He will be mentioned in this presentation later, but he introduced the use of the meridian photometer to measure the magnitude of stars, so he also had a pretty substantial role in astronomy. He was the one who hired her, and he hired her to help with the classification of spectra. She was actually very skilled in classifying spectra, and some said that she became so good at it that she could visually examine and determine the spectral types of several hundred stars per hour. Her main legacy came from that, and it was actually cataloging for spectral types. She received the first honorary degree from Oxford that was awarded to a woman, and she became the first woman to be elected officer at the American Astronomical Society, or the Professional Organization of Astronomers in the US. So she was the first woman to receive these awards, really going to show that women were not so much acknowledged and appreciated for the roles that they played in astronomy, and it was just a really big demonstration of that. So her discoveries have served as a foundation to much of the 20th century astronomy and what these people learned from her discoveries specifically. Next, I want to talk about Caroline Herschel. She was sister to William Herschel. Now, why is this important? Who was William Herschel? Well, he actually discovered the planet that we today call Uranus, and she spent her time helping her brother. However, during her lifetime, in the beginning of it, she was not encouraged to help her brother. She was not encouraged to study astronomy, so that was an obstacle that she had to overcome. And later on, her brother became a full-time astronomer much before she did, and that also demonstrates that she was not very much so allowed because she was a woman to study astronomy, and it took her a lot of work and hard work to become a full-time astronomer. So once she started helping her brother full-time, she was responsible for calculating equations with accuracy, and she would calculate these equations and these data and help her brother with accurately portraying those. She discovered her first comet in 1786, and between 1786 and 1797, she discovered 8 more comets. The first comet she discovered, people refer to as the First Lady's Comet. She was one of 2 women to become the first members of the Royal Astronomical Society, and she now even has a minor planet named after her, Lucretia, as that is her middle name. She was a pioneering woman whose work is still valuable today. She paved the way for many women to pursue astronomy in a male-dominated workspace. We saw that her brother was the dominator of very much so to her, that it was him that became a full-time astronomer first, but she still wanted people to see that she could do it, that she was able to study astronomy, even though in her early lifetime it may not have been so possible. So she really paved the way for many women to reach outside of that and pursue astronomy. I want to talk about Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin next. She was the first woman to get a PhD at Harvard, and her discoveries include that the sun and star compositions are similar and made of mostly hydrogen and helium. This is important because it completely changed our understanding of the universe and its elements and composition. Now, this is the groundwork for modern astronomy today. Because of these understandings, we're now able to understand and see and study different compositions and why they're made of mostly hydrogen and helium, why this is important, how this impacts our universe, things of that nature. However, again, being a woman, and because of that, she was not given a formal appointment at Harvard until 1938, and she was not appointed professor until 1956. This is just one of the first examples of the way women were treated in early astronomy, and even though her discovery was so substantial and was so important, she was rejected of that formal appointment, and she wasn't accepted as a professor at the college, where she attended and got her PhD, simply because she was a woman, and it had taken a very long time for her to do so. Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin's discovery have laid out the groundwork and foundation for what modern astronomy is. The last astronomer I want to talk about is Williamina Fleming. And she actually started off as a housekeeper to Edward C. Pickering, again, mentioning him and how he's very important to astronomy. And he actually helped a lot of the astronomers that we talked about in this presentation. So she started off as a housekeeper, and she lived a very tumultuous life before actually housekeeping for Pickering. So he invited her to the observatory, and her responsibilities included cataloging, indexing, examining, and caring for new photographic plates. She invented her own system of cataloging. She thought that the old one was outdated, so she actually invented her new one where she cataloged them from A to Q, where P, J, and I were omitted, and she cataloged them based on the strength of the spectral lines that were due to hydrogen. She ended up discovering 79 stars, 10 novae, and 59 gaseous nebulae. She discovered a classification system that is still used to this day, and she had a small start when she came, but she made vast contributions. She is an example of, how women can overcome what they have thrown to them, and still make vast contributions and have great importance in any field. So maybe you're asking yourself at this point, why is this important? Why do we talk about women in astronomy? Why do we talk about women in any field, but specifically astronomy? And it's for many reasons. We talk about them because they have had vast contributions to astronomy. It's a very male-dominated field, so it's easy to overlook the tremendous amount of important knowledge that women have given to us about the universe, what the universe is, why those things are important, and so on. So it's not only important to recognize the knowledge they have given us and that they continue to give, but to address what it is like to be a woman in the field. They faced challenges and overcame them only to become some of the most influential people in astronomy to this very day. So while the circumstances might be a little better now, it still seemed to be a very male-dominated industry, but their contributions lay out the groundwork for astronomers to come. And we talk about women in astronomy because it is to prove that despite identifying factors such as gender, there is opportunity to make something great and to discover great things in this world. So thank you very much.